it was 28-0 and they walked in, and there was just a look on all the boys' faces walking in. I remember looking at Marcus and he just looked up at me and like nodded. And you could just tell, we just had this feeling, we were like, this isn't over. We're honest with each other. I think that's the main thing when we're trying to improve. It's something we've been working on, is our relationships and trying to be more honest and have those honest conversations to help us get better. It's not a dig at anyone to say, oh, I think you could have done this. I would say I'd try and, as soon as I've got something in my mind, I'd like to get it out. You have to talk. Just getting it out and knowing that it's not all on you. It's now on both of us, it's now on our group. And everyone knows that. I think that's massive, to share the load. If you just keep pushing it down and down and don't talk to anyone, it can be so detrimental.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So thanks for joining us here.
No, thank you for having me.
How are you feeling today out of 10?
Yeah, I'd say I'm probably about a 7.
6.9
or 7.1?
7.1.
For the past couple of seasons, you've been playing regularly, right, at Quins. How have you found it?
Unbelievable. I'm obviously living my childhood dream. I've loved every moment of it. There are ups, there are downs, but as a whole, if I was to sum it up, yeah, it's been unreal.
And how have you made that position your own that you're in?
I think it's by using a lot of knowledge of people that have been before. So Tommy Williams was our old academy coach, who obviously used to play on the wing as well. We were very close. He was a very good coach. Using some of the older, more experienced boys, the likes of Tim Visser, who was before me, all of them, just learning off other people and trying to put my own twist on it. Winning the Premiership the season before last, was unbelievable. That was the highest of the highs. But then I've had injury issues. I didn't play much that season, actually. I think it was 12 of the last 16 weeks of that season or something like that. So not being a part of like the main run makes you feel a bit left out. But obviously to get there, play in the final was, yeah, one of the highest.
How do you deal with those lows during a season as well?
The best thing about Quins at the moment, I think, is the culture and the club. We are such a tight-knit group. When you're injured, you're not usually the only one injured. So you have a few boys around you as well that you can bounce off. But also, we brought in a welfare manager, Andy Sanger, who's from the military. He actually knows my dad, who they used to work together in the army. But he's been unbelievable at making sure everyone's okay. He's very military he goes through everyone, he makes sure everyone's all right. But yeah, he's been a massive change to our environment. If you're out there on a Friday, Saturday or Sunday with your mates that you're very close with, playing rugby, smiles on faces, which is what we like to do as Quins, it makes it so much more special. When you lose together, and we all buy into that, and we're honest with each other. I think that's the main thing when we're trying to improve. It's something we've been working on. With Tabai coming in, is our relationships and trying to be more honest and have those honest conversations to help us get better. It's not a dig at anyone to say, oh, I think you could have done this. It really helps you develop, but making that accepted in the environment is massive to improve your performances. It can be anywhere. It could be out on the pitch. It can be if you're a young player, talking to the likes of experienced internationals, but if you've got your own opinion, you need to be able to voice them. And the trust in the environment and taking on everyone's opinions has come on leaps and bounds.
What does rugby mean to you?
Oh, rugby is everything to me at the moment. I mean, it's what I've thrown all my eggs into one basket. But I remember when I was younger, I had this conversation with my mum, and she said, because my dad was obviously rugby. He played a bit of rugby, played for Harlequins back in the 90s. So he was very much, I want my son to play rugby. Whereas my mum, I played all sorts of sports when I was younger. I did football, I did athletics, I did like every sport I could. And she was like, we're not going to make you make the decision. We're not going to make the decision for you, sorry. We're going to let you make the decision. Eventually I found my way to rugby and I loved it. But yeah, I'm living my childhood dream at the moment.
So how has rugby supported your mental fitness?
I think a team environment, firstly, it helps you make friends. A lot of my closest friends now I wouldn't have known when I was 16 before I joined the academy. So they're massively important to be able to have those relationships. I think it makes you resilient. I think, especially when you come into the first team and there are pressures on you from the outside, everyone wants to play well, not just for themselves, but for your family, for your friends, for everyone in the crowd when you're playing at the Stoop. There's a lot of pressures that happen, but when you don't play so well, to still feel that love around you and support around you, that can help build you as well. You know that people aren't just there because you're a rugby player. They're there for you as a person.
What do those pressures look like for you?
They come in many shapes and forms. Selection's a massive pressure. If you don't get selected one week, it's a bit like, oh, why not? Your friends are like, oh, why are you not selected? Blah, 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 that kind of thing. What other pressures are there? Pressures to perform, pressures to push on in your career. You don't just want to stay on the same playing field your whole career. You want to push on to hopefully international honours and everything. So trying to find your way that way. It's actually we're from a young age, we're media trained, they say, but we're told not to listen to, because you can do 10 good things in a game and one bad thing, and the media will focus on that one bad thing. So we've been told and instilled in us from a young age that focus on those 10 good things. I know that one bad thing will probably feel the worst out of all of them, but you did 10 other brilliant things. So just looking at it in that way has really helped. One of the nice things to do is just switch off from all the social media, all of that. So going back to my parents, going back and just being a family again, and getting back to them, being like a kid again. Because I'm still only 23, I'm still very, very young. But yeah, just trying to switch off from it all really helps. Using the experience of boys around you, because there are boys in the club that have done X, Y, and Z, and they've been in the media for negative reasons, but also positive reasons, and they're very good at helping you to focus where you want, helping you to put your mind on those positive things rather than focusing on the negative.
Mm-hmm. And when you say switch off, what sort of things?
Just simple things like I've got notifications turned off on all my social media apart from WhatsApp, because that's the one thing we use to communicate at Quinn, so that's the only thing I need. But little things like that, you don't want to be constantly bombarded. If you need a switch off, you want to watch a film or you want to go out for some food, having all your notifications off is a brilliant way to just switch off. I think it obviously depends on the person, depends on your job and everything, you might need that, but I find it very helpful I go on my phone on social media when I want to go on my phone on social media. It's not constantly pinging. So yeah, that time just to switch off and have a bit of me time is really nice. I think I must have read it somewhere, I've seen an article, and I was like, that's actually a really good idea, because it makes you want to go on social media as well, or not want to all the time, but when you're on it, you can actually enjoy it.
Yeah, it's not letting social media control you.
You control social media,
yeah.
Exactly that.
Taking me back to the league winning season.
Mm-hmm.
Half time at Bristol.
Yeah.
Quinn's losing, seemed you down and out, and you came back because you had the belief in yourself. Where did that come from?
So I actually wasn't playing that game. I was in the stands and I was a travelling reserve, so it was me and a couple other boys. We were sat up just above the subs bench. And it was 28-0, I think, and then Dom scored a breakaway try and they walked in. And there was just a look on all the boys' faces when they scored that try, walking in. I remember looking at Marcus and he just looked up at me and like nodded. Dom did the same. And you could just tell, we just had this feeling, we were like, this isn't over, we're going to come back from this. And I think they had a good chat in the changing room. Joe Marler spoke, and I don't know if you've seen that video of him in the final just saying, believe. He just kept shouting it all game, because we know what we can do as a group when we all put our mind to it, and it just makes us that bit closer and that bit more special when it happens. When you're a close group, when everyone has that tiny little bit in them, and you can see in each other's eyes that it's going to bring it out in the group, I think it makes it that much easier to buy into the one thing that you want together. We have a purpose. We set our goal at the start of the season to win the Premiership, obviously. When you have that shared goal, it brings out everyone. When everyone's focusing on that one goal, it brings you all so much closer, because ultimately you're all in it together. It's a team game. There's 23 of you in a team. There's 45, 50 of us in the squad, all wanting to do that. So when everyone buys in, firstly, you've got a common interest, so you can talk amongst people. We have this thing during the week called coffee and cake. I'm sure not many other clubs have it, but we have about an hour and a half slot in the day where we grab a coffee, we get brought these unbelievable brownies, and we just sit and chat to different people, different groups, about getting to know each other, basically. Because you'll perform on the pitch so much better if you know the person to your left, the person to your right.
How long has that been going for?
That started in that season we won the Premiership.
Wow.
Yeah.
Massive impact?
Massive impact, yeah.
What kind of conversations happen? Is it like...
It's just talking, yeah, it's a lot of it's small talk, but just getting to know, so like, we live a completely different culture so Vili, who came in from Tonga, to Semi, who was here from Fiji, to the South Africans that come over, and they see just different parts of the world, just getting to know each other. And then you obviously have people who've come through different school systems in the UK as well. So just getting to know people's background, how they tick, how to give feedback as well. Because not everyone can take that the same way. If you know, so like me and Marcus have this thing where we can shout at each other all we want, we can go as hard as each other, but we've had this friendship for ages. We know it's not going to affect, nothing's personal. But to someone, if you say negative feedback without a positive, that can really crush them, especially to a young kid. So it's learning the right ways to give feedback. I think it's one thing we actually focused on. We've had chats about it all together as a group. Tab I's massive on knowing the person before you know the rugby player. So getting to know them, and then you can layer on what you need to do to get them to be a better rugby player.
So obviously, coming through that academy system, did you put a lot of pressure on yourself to make it to where you are, or was it more of an enjoyment side for you? It just came?
I've been very lucky. I've progressed quite relatively easily, but I remember I think it was under 16s. I wasn't in county, I wasn't in anything, or was it under 15s maybe? And I didn't get selected. I sat 80 minutes on the bench. And I remember my dad just telling me, he was like, you can't use this as an excuse. If anything, this is an excuse to get up and try even harder to make it to that next step. So yeah, I think I put pressure on myself, but I think pressure is a privilege. To be in this environment where there are 15,000 people at the stoop with the belief in you, the pressure, you've got to embrace that, and I think that can work for you, but you want to learn how to carry that pressure. Because yeah, it can have a massively detrimental effect, but it also can drive you to be better.
Do you share your feelings often with people?
When I need to, I feel like I do, yeah. I've got 2 very close friends from school and a close group of us at Quins, and then my mum and my dad. So my dad's in the army. So me, my mum, my dad and my sister, all our family are based in Cornwall. We've lived in Germany, we've lived in Salisbury, we've lived in so many different houses, but it's always been us 4. So I think that made us almost so much closer, and they didn't have their parents to fall back on. I was changing schools, I was changing house, but the common denominator was them. So yeah, I think, yeah, I'm very close to them, but I'd say I share different things with all of them. So my dad is very much my rugby, my mentor, I'll talk to him about the pressures, about everything with that, but I don't want to put that on my mum, because I know, you know what mums are like. You know how they'll feel, oh, he's feeling like this week. So I try to keep that to my dad usually, and then my mum is more like my feelings, and it's not because my dad wouldn't be good at that. I think it's just how it ends up. My dad went away on tours to Iraq, Afghanistan, so I always had my mum there that I could talk to about that. So I think that's just instilled from that. So yeah, I have different ways of communicating with all of them.
And do you think having those different outlets has aided your mental fitness? Yeah,
definitely. I think you can't have the same relationship with every single person. You can't share all your feelings in every single person. You have to have little outlets, and it's the same in any environment. Your work environment is different to your family environment, different to your friends' environment. So just getting to know people and knowing who is the right person to talk to, because that helps massively. I would say I try, and as soon as I've got something on my mind, I'd like to get it out. You have to talk. It just, even if they don't reply, even if they don't say anything back, just getting it out and knowing that it's not all on you. It's now on both of us. It's now on our group, and everyone knows that. I think that's massive to share the load, because it can, if you just keep pushing it down and down and don't talk to anyone, it can be so detrimental. I've had some close friends that pushed it down and down and down, and we had no clue. And then all of a sudden they come out and it releases, and you're like, if he'd have spoken when it was a tiny little thing rather than absolutely massive now, we could have helped him so much easier. So that would be my one piece. Just talk to your friends, to your family. They want to help you. No one wants to see anyone suffer. And the thing is, we as humans are very good at putting on a brave face. 90% of the time, I'm sure you don't know what someone's going through, but to be able to communicate and express yourself with people helps relieve so much pressure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, mate.
That was excellent.